All right, man, so what's up with this rear suspension here, Dan?
We are limited on travel by this upper ball joint. It binds up when you get to this much droop.
Okay.
So replace that with a high angle hind joint. That'll allow you to get more droop. We don't run into any clearance issues here or here with the CV shaft when it's installed.
Gotcha.
You can get about 3 more inches of droop out of it before you run into any clearance issues in there, any driveline bind angles.
Okay, now one picture you showed us when it was up all the way and it had the axle in there, it looked like it was going to hit that top bar there. Can you point at that?
Up in here, when you go up with this,
right?
If you were to ever compress your suspension that much, I mean, the shock will limit your upward travel there. If you were to go this high, your tire would be sticking out the top side. So
gotcha,
probably, I mean, somewhere right about in here is where you'd eventually run out of usable travel due to wheel clearance issues.
Gotcha. So we'll have something else limited by the time it gets to that.
Yeah,
point.
there's definitely, at least in the rear, there's no issues with CV axle clearance. In the front, the frame rails will have to be notched.
Gotcha. So we're kind of just aiming for 7.5 inches of travel here. We don't have to do any notching in the rear. We just need the proper stud, a hind joint. We're good to go.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. In the engine back here, what are we going to do to protect the train sticking out the rear?
Aluminum skid plate, 1/4 inch aluminum skid plate from the back and kind of a cage around it. If you do go into the woods backwards, something out around here and up over the bottom just to keep rock impacts and anything else that may occur.
Alright, so we'll probably just make some sort of a Dom tube cage coming off the rear of the chassis there, just strap it on the back, protecting
bolt
it.
on where these bumper mounts and everything are,
Gotcha.
integrated into that, so we can't really weld the aluminum chassis with anything steel, anyways.
Okay. Engine, have you seen anything interesting that'll make it a little challenging for rally as far as, say, service goes, or maybe intake location or anything? Like, what are we looking at here?
I mean, the air intakes are all up here that feed the air boxes under the hood, so you have to get a lot of water and a lot of overhead dust for any issues there. As far as the service goes, there's nothing really that's easily serviceable on this motor besides coils. Everything else is really rather challenging to get to with this assembly.
Okay. Let's see what else we got here.
But underneath, the dry sump system is all tucked up underneath the frame rail, so you don't think you'll run into any problems hitting anything there, especially with a carbon fiber aluminum skid plate underneath the chart.
Awesome. Most weight. Where'd you say we've got the most weight getting removed from the chassis at?
Most of the interior, the airbags, the hydraulic suspension system. Going to smaller brakes, I'm going to save a lot of weight there. The calipers, the rear calipers are probably 30 pounds a piece. I mean, they're huge and they're super heavy, and the fronts are even bigger.
Okay.
Go to smaller gravel brakes, I'm going to save at least 20 pounds of unsprung weight on each corner.
20 pounds of unsprung weight in each corner by switching to a nice setup. Probably go with like an AP racing or something.
Yes, it's easy.
So how much of a pain in the butt was the interior to take out?
It was a lot of Torx head screws. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Torx head screws.
Okay. So a lot of time.
A lot of time, yes. Very little sound deadening installation in this car. Maybe, a ½ inch behind these carpets, and that's it. And what you see here from the floor is actually underneath the car. That's it.
Pretty awesome. Some issues we're running into as far as, just design in general for rally.
For rally, I mean, these are your radiators in these corners. They're just cast aluminum end tags just hanging out there. You get close to anything inside of a corner or anything in the road, it's just going to get ripped out and destroyed. To relocate the radiators into here, there's one large one versus the 2 small ones in here at an angle for clearance issues and airflow. Just to keep everything that's out here that is easily damageable inside and safe if there is a moment.
A moment or two, yes.
Moment, yes. And every wheel arch of this car there is coolers. There's These in the front, there's power steering coolers, air conditioning condenser, oil coolers and trans coolers in the rear. So a lot of plumbing.
Okay, on the front suspension here, what are you thinking we've got to do as far as just getting it so we've got some travel in this thing?
To get some travel out of this in the front, you're going to have to change both the ball joints, upper and lower to Heim joints.
Okay.
And then this rail down here is going to have to be notched to allow axle clearance. Same thing on the upward side.
Okay, so what's got to be notched here?
The lower frame rail right here has to be notched and boxed around here to clearance for your CV shaft.
Okay, so that's the clear for the CV shaft under droop.
Yes, under droop, because
Okay.
our ride height is probably going to be...
So this is going to hit this if we don't notch here.
Yes.
Okay. What else might hit?
That's really about it, unless we get into some serious, see how much travel we can get with our rider suspension, so we don't hit on the upper side, but we can modify that in the same fashion as the lower.
Okay, what are we expecting to have up here as far as travel goes?
Hoping for about the same as the rear, at least 7.5 inches.
Okay. And that's simply with the Heim joints and notching.
The only restriction here is going to be the overall height of the shock, because
Okay.
where the windshield location is, you can't put a longer shock in there, to get more stroke out of the shock.
So normally we would raise the top of the turret or something?
Raise the top turret, put a longer shock in,
Okay.
so you can get more stroke out of your shock. But whereas your windshield is right here.
It would take an entire redesign of something massive in order to make that happen, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. That sounds cool though. They relocated the windshield so they could put a bigger turret on the top there for the suspension. All right. That'd be cool, right, Charlie?
These control arms are just cast aluminum. I don't know how well they'll hold up in the rally.
They won't.
But to go to a tubular DOM control arm with Heim joints inner and outer on them.
Yeah, I think full clip. Cody Toby's going to take care of some custom suspension bits for us here and try to get us the 15-inch brake conversion for some AP racing, as well as some custom adjustable controls front and rear. So that'd be pretty cool.
And if they do that as well, they can relocate the lower shock pivot
Okay.
further in and get more up and down out of the knuckle versus shock stroke.
Okay,
So
great.
You have to go change your spring rate at that point, but it'll give you more travel
Okay.
using the same stroke shock. Sway bar end links might have to get redesigned to take that kind of suspension
Angle?
travel.
Okay.
An angle so they don't bind up or run into anything. It'd be a matter of shortening and lengthening them.
Okay.
Make adjustable ones so you can get your... If the wheel hits something, it's going to hit your feet.
Okay.
Your feet are right there, so if you go with everything, it's...
Gotcha. So I need to pull my feet in on impact. More so than the BMW.
It's all pretty well boxed. It's all this cast down.
Right.
Cast, so it's all pretty strong in that area for impact protection.
Right. I really don't want to hit the front corner of this car into anything. I don't want to hit the back. I don't want to hit anything of this car into anything. I don't think there's a cheap impact point on this car.
This is like a $10,000 impact.
This is a
I don't even want to know what those radiators cost.
Okay, so this is like a $10,000 impact zone. This is like, we don't want to know. Anything including Lamborghini factory glass, which is only going to be the front windshield because we're custom making the rest of this ourselves. Well, actually, I should say Performance for Plastics in the UK is custom making us proper rally glass for this. But we have to run stock front windows. So if we break a windshield, which we will, I'm sure, with gravel kickup or something at some point, I don't even know. It's probably like $1,000 or something. Do we know?
$1,700 for a windshield.
$1,700 for a windshield. So. Okay, we need to find like knockoff glass.
I bet the Lambo stuff guys have to sing on the shelf.
Perfect. $1,700 for windshield. All right.
I mean, that was what they sell them for retail. I don't know what Lambo cars gets for them.
Right.
Gets for them.
This is pretty cool. So we're not going to relocate pedals or anything like that.
I don't think you're going to have to. You can't put the seat back far enough to really need to.
Now without relocating the gas tanks located under here and boxing that off differently. Gotcha.
Yes.
Which there's no room for, because if we do any relocating massively, it's going to be the radiators to the center of the front, and then we want to have room for the tank up there, and there's no room for the tank back here. So that'd be kind of funny to stick a gas tank right here. Just install a gas tank right here, and just like work the exhaust straight pipe, just straight pipes. Yeah, just dump it right out the backside.
Yeah, everything on the motor of this car, you got 2 fuel tanks, 2 fuel pumps, 2 separate intake manifolds. This one feeds this bank of cylinders, this one feeds this bank. And it's all wired and run as essentially 2 separate engines.
Wow, okay. So the ECU just manages it.
Yeah, it's all just, but it's all separate the way they have it all.
Right.
In the car. It's all right.
That's awesome.
But it's easier, I guess, diagnose at that point. You know, left bank versus right bank issues and whatever.
Right. Big ass Brimbos. Right, Charlie Bear? Oof. Oof.
You probably never noticed it, but the motor actually sits like 2 inches to the left
Okay.
in the engine compartment.
All right. That's cool. Yeah, you're right. Gotcha.
The drive shaft for the front wheel drive comes off of this side of the diff. It goes forward on this side of the oil pan.
Okay.
Everything's shifted this way to make clearance for that. Like the half shafts are longer on one side than the other. I would actually probably guess that bigger spring rates are 2 different rates as well because of that.
Dang. Okay, that's cool.
The axle shaft was built early to make 500 horsepower.
Yeah, it looks a lot like the BMW, huh?
Yeah.
Seems to take it okay.
Yep.